I think the greatest gifts in life, and is belief and exposure, right? Because a lot of times, for me personally, the reason I say that is there was a lot of moments in my life to where it was people that saw things in me that I couldn't see in myself. And they believed in me in a way that I couldn't believe in myself yet. And I rented their level of belief until I got strong enough to possess my own, right? It's like when you're young and they see you, and it's like even when you start out doing what you're doing, you could be talented, right? And somebody older than you or more experienced than you can see you and know like, oh man, if he did this, or if he does this, man, he could be great, right? And they can come to you and say, hey kid, man, you got something. Like you could be great, right? Like my teachers and my coaches, when they came to me and they was like, son, I'm telling you, you could go to college, man. Like you really, I know you're talking about it, but your circumstances are saying different. I think you can do it, right? And when they said it, I'm like, oh, I can do it. Like I can make it happen because they're believing in me making it happen. I think I can do it. So I think belief, and the reason I say exposure is because like I think when you show people things, that's powerful. I think exposure sparks inspiration, right? Exposure sparks motivation. Like when I was coming up in that 2-bedroom house with all those people, and I went to the other side of town with my coach, and he was like, no, you don't have to live like that, Ink. You can live a normal life, right? It changed my whole mindset. And my mindset can never go back to the way that it once was because I have been exposed to something different, to something new. So I think belief and exposure are two of the most powerful things that can happen to a person. The reason that I think belief is important is because like when you're young or when you do something and you're a novice, right? And you start out doing it and you might think you can do something with it or you might not. You might do it and it's being driven by your passion. And then somebody comes along that's a little bit older or even more experienced and they can see it in a way that you can't see it, right? And so I think it's important with belief because if a person believes in you in a way that you don't believe in yourself, you can rent that person's belief until you get strong enough to possess your own, right? And you use that person's belief to fuel you every single day, right? Because you can have a level of belief with what you're doing, but you can go back to a certain set of circumstances that tell you, nah, it's not gonna happen. And so you rent that person's belief until you get strong enough to possess your own.
Are you letting people talk you out of what God put in your heart? You can't get well. You saw the report. You'll never get out of debt. You've reached your limits. You can't start that business. You won't accomplish your dreams. You have too much opposition. Do like him. Let that go in one ear and out the other. Ignore what they're saying. They don't determine your destiny. God does. But if Barnabas would have been passive and indifferent, thought, hey, I'm blind, it's just a bad break, he wouldn't have received his sight. He had this passion, this fire on the inside that said, this is your day. This is your time. He rose up and took that step of faith. If you're going to see what you're believing for, you have to be willing to do what other people won't do. Other people may not believe when it looks impossible. Other people may settle where they are. They may get discouraged, tell you, don't bother praying, don't bother believing. No use getting your hopes up. You're wasting your time. You have to do like Barnabas and say, God, this looks impossible, but I know you can do the impossible. The odds are against me, but God, I know you are for me. Well, I put in 3 applications. All 3 companies turned me down. I don't think I'll ever find a job. I say this respectfully, you don't want it bad enough. Well, I dated 2 girls. Both of them told me I wasn't their type. I don't think I'll ever get married. You don't want it bad enough. There are several million other girls out there. Well, I want to get well, but the medical report says I'm not going to make it. When the odds are against you, you have to want it on a new level. How bad do you want to get out of debt? Bad enough to not buy things you can't afford? Bad enough to not try to keep up with your friends? Bad enough to honor God by tithing your income? How bad do you want that promotion? Bad enough to get to work early? Bad enough to do more than what's required? bad enough to take that online course to sharpen your skills? I don't want to take another course. I don't want more work. I just want the promotion. You don't want it bad enough. You have to stand out in the crowd.
You're wasting a bunch of percentage here. We have 80 more percent that we're not tapping into, because in this other 80% is suffering, pain, failure, self-doubt, darkness, and then a whole bunch of light. But to get to this light, you got to go through all of this shit. So a lot of us know that. We know, yeah, I can get over here, but over here, man, this is much better, because I got to go through this journey that is not fun. This from 20 to 100%, this shit in between is not fun. So we decided to live over here. So everybody goes, how do you do that? You know exactly how to do that. You know exactly. It's not a magic trick. There's nothing I talk about in that book that's a magic trick. It's all back down to a very primitive mindset of we just have to do. It's like breathing. Breathing becomes normal. Like we don't know that we're doing it. That's how you have to live your life. When that alarm clock goes off at 4 or 5 in the morning, your mind says no. You just say, this is what we do. It's what we do now. Because to get to where you want to go, the amount of pain involved, I'm not saying physical, I'm not saying you got to break yourself off. The amount of mental pain of how many times you're going to have to do something that you don't want to do to get to where you want to go. There's going to be more times you do something that you don't want to do than you are going to want to do it. And that's your new norm. What is in us, we have no idea until we start trying hard. And I mean really trying hard, when you're obsessed with, hey, this is my new norm. My new norm is that, wow, this isn't always fun.
We give names like English Channel, like Atlantic, to what is actually the same body of water. Pacific, same. Indian Ocean, same. South China Sea, same. All these different names, when everything is one ocean, one sea. And so it is with the human race. We give ourselves, and we are given, all these names and labels to define us, when actually all of us, none excluded, are different points of attention in the same flow of infinite awareness. Here we are looking at ourselves as divided into labels and names, when actually we're all expressions of the same consciousness, exploring forever. The names, the labels, are just brief experiences, as human is a brief experience for the consciousness that is having those experiences. What a different world it would be if we realized that we are all different expressions of each other.
Life ain't luck, man. This is what life is. Life is hard work, life is faith, and life is grace. You just keep the faith and work really hard, and then ask God for as much grace as He can give you. He gives you stuff you don't deserve. That's what you want out of life. Justice is when you get what you deserve. Mercy is when you don't get what you deserve. Grace is when you get what you don't deserve. I just want some grace. on God to give me a house that I don't really deserve. See, that's the problem with people. They think they deserve something. No, you don't. I work really hard. Everybody work hard. You just need some grace, man. You just need God to give you something that you didn't even ask for. That's when life get real special for you. So you can want all you want, but if you line up with the will of God, what God has planned for you is way better than anything you could ever plan. That's how you get the life of your dreams, man. Give us this day our daily bread. Don't ask for nothing else. Quit worrying about tomorrow. When you worry about tomorrow, you're off into something you have no say-so in. You have no control. So why would you worry? By worrying does not add a single hour to a day. You'd be amazed what would happen to you if you quit tripping about tomorrow. Today is plenty.
Worry long enough, it'll drop you to your knees. Could reduce you to begging. I know how bad this one is. I used to have it bad. But I'll tell you what. My advice to you is do what I finally did. Give it up. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's worth it. And I discovered you could live the most incredible life free of worry. Not free of challenge, free of worry.
The Lord knows when is often an expression. I wanted to have more meaning than a casual American colloquialism. I wanted to point to the fact that the Lord knows when is my conviction. It is comforting to say the Lord knows when, especially when I don't. To rebuke the tendency to believe that our lives are chaotic. To know and to remind yourself that God has a plan and He has a schedule, He has a structure, gives comfort, whether He shares it with me or not. It's like children going on a ride and they're in the back seat of the car and they keep saying to you, "Are we there yet?" Yet they are comfortable to ride on the car because they know that their father or their mother has the wheel. I don't know whether we're at the end of suffering. I don't know whether we're at the end of sacrifice. Are we there yet? But I do know who holds the wheel. I'm not worried about where I am in the journey because I know before we got in the car, you had a plan, you had a map, you had a strategy, you had a timing, and I'm going to wait on you. It is possible to be going through a process of healing and know it's coming, but don't know when. God has a when. He's not making this up as he goes. He's not just responding to your moves, your attitudes, and the attacks of the enemy, and the things your friends say about you. You are not at the mercy of your detractors, your haters. You are only at the mercy of the timing of God. And God knows when. I might not come forth today. I may not even come forth next week or next month. But when He has tried me, I shall come forth as pure gold. I know how the story ends. And every contaminant that would contaminate my worth or value will have burned off in the process, but not me. Gold don't burn, baby. It may melt, but it will never burn. So if God allows me to put me in the fire for a while, He's only trying to burn off those things that would weaken my value, and I shall come forth as pure gold. You shall be tried, but you're going to survive. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. God has a watch and a timer is on it, and it's already set. Everything is on schedule. I said nothing is chaotic. Everything is on schedule. Don't worry about your purpose. Worry about your season. Because when you get in your season, your purpose will be clear. God knows when. God knows how. God knows what. There are times you go through a season of mourning, a season of struggle. I've gone through seasons of weeping. Not a few minutes or an hour, seasons of weeping. God has a time already set aside. Didn't you hear the bell ring? Did you not hear that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning? Do you not know that God has a win? You don't know what God's gonna fight with, but I declare God's gonna get you out of this. You don't know who God's gonna use, but God's gonna get you out of this. And all of a sudden he began to turn everything around. In one moment, the weeping turned to laughter, and your tongue was singing. And all of a sudden, I am going to bless you so good that even the unbelievers are going to say the Lord have done great things for them.
You know, people they write books about success, and people kill me when they write about success, but they don't tell people about God. You're trying to be successful without God, you ain't gonna make it. You might make it a little way, but you can't stay there. You have to have faith, man. You don't believe in God? Go to hell. If you want to go to hell, I'm perfectly comfortable with that. Just don't drag me with you. I was interviewing this guy. He said, well, Steve, you're opposed, there's no heaven. Well, then I lived the best life I could, and there's no heaven. You got a bigger problem. Pose it is. I don't believe God would burn us up. Well, why take a chance? You know the real reason I want to go to heaven? Because I want to see my mama.
I remember when I bought the home for my mother and she came. That was my first major goal. And as she went from room to room, looking at the house and saying, thank you, Lord, no one ever could have convinced me that this could have happened to me. She said, no one could have convinced me that day when I walked in that house and this lady was holding you and your brother. And she said, ma'am, I want you to promise me two things. She says, one, promise me that you won't separate them. She said, I promise I won't. I've never had children. I promise I won't separate them. And she said, promise me that you'll never tell them about who I am, because if my husband ever found out, he would kill me. And she said, as I held y'all in my arms, I never had any children of my own. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew with the help of God, I will do it. My mother had a dream of having children. She didn't know how she's going to do it. You're going to be just like that. Well, you don't know how you're going to make this happen, but you just feel within yourself some way, with the help of God, I'm going to make it happen. No matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. It's possible for you to live your dream. It's necessary that you associate with winners, that you are relentless, that you never give up. You've got to make it your personal business to make it happen. That it's hard, but you've got to say, I'm the one. But you know it's going to be hard, but find out what will make it worth it for you. The people that are living their dreams are the people that know that if it's going to happen, it's up to them. The people that are running after their dream know they're going to have hard times. They keep on running because they're saying within themselves, I'm the one. I'm the one. No matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. Shake somebody's hand on your right and left and say, you got to be hungry.
Write this down. God will promote you to the level of your tolerance of pain. God will promote you to the level of your tolerance of pain. At the point that you can't handle pain, you lose the promotion. He promotes you to the level of your tolerance of pain. If you can't take it, you can't be promoted. You can't handle it, you're too sensitive, you can't have it. In the corporate world, the people who get the big bucks are paid to handle problems. You can't be an executive and you can't handle stress. You can't be a manager and your feelings are sensitive. You can't run a corporation and you can't handle problems. We don't put you in a corporate office to overviewing the city with glass all around you, not to handle problems. We gave you that so that you could process the problem. The big bucks go to problem handlers, people who can solve it, people who can make it happen, people who can get it done. Offenses will come. That's a promise. Offenses will come. If you avoid offenses, you avoid life. Offenses will come. They will come over and over and over and over and over again. They will come. I don't know whether the mail is going to come, but offenses will come. The longer you live, the more things are going to offend you. It is impossible to hide from it. You cannot dodge it. Everywhere you go, you will run into offenses. You must understand that your ability to handle offense will determine your direction for the next 20, 30 years of your life. So when you ask for promotion, you're asking for problems. You're asking for offenses. You're asking, fill my desk with offense. I can handle it. I'm the man for the job. I'm here to represent. I can handle it. Let me put it in Bible language. To him whom much is given, much is required. You can't get the much giving if you're not going to deal with the much required. Let me break it down in colloquialism. New levels, new devils. The higher you go, the more you're going to have to confront with every day.
So when you are where you are right now and you say, I can't take this, I can't handle this, I don't want any more, this is driving me crazy, you are saying, I don't want to go any higher. You are rejecting the call to move forward, because moving forward and moving up means more problems. In fact, the problems that you're dealing with right now may be the fact that you are in training. If you don't let it break you, if you don't let it destroy you, if you don't wimp out and let it beat you down, if you just master the situation, refuse to be intimidated, and learn how to manage the stress on the next level, then doors swing open. There's this magical thing about life, and I believe it's divinely inspired. You know how you go to the grocery store and you stand at a certain spot, you haven't even gotten to the door yet, but when you get in close proximity, the doors just start opening. When you can stand on a level of life where you're dealing with opposition and pressure and turmoil and take a licking and keep on ticking, and it might have stressed you out. You might have felt the pressure. You might have felt like breaking, but you didn't break. Doors just start opening up for you to go to the next level. I'm going to talk more about this in a minute, because when I start talking about dealing with conflict, all of the conflict is not external conflict. Some of it is internal conflict. Because when you come from back there and you start moving up further and further and further, and every step you take takes you to a different level of life and living, sometimes your life is moving faster than your mentality. You can have the desk you dreamed about, the position you wanted, the ministry you wanted, the opportunity you wanted, and everything moved up except your perception of yourself. Are you following what I'm saying to you? And I want you to understand something, that when God begins to move you along in life, it's not an elevator, it's a step-by-step process. So many people attempt to move forward in a rapid motion. They want to go from midnight to morning. They want to go from the basement to the presidential suite in one step. That's not what you want. You don't want to take the elevator. Because if you take the elevator and you get it too fast, you can't handle it. You can't handle it. Oh, I know you want the money, but you can't handle the pressure and the problems and the conflict and the criticism and the opposition. And so God has designed it that you would move along in steps, in stages, not too fast. And every time you take a step, you have to kind of balance yourself and get used to this level of opposition, this level of controversy, this level of conflict, this level of criticism, because again, that's what they're paying you for, is managing trouble. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? And just as soon as you get it all down pat and you've mastered it and you say, good, I'm comfortable now. This is now my new normal. I'm okay with it. Then all of a sudden you take another step. You're back in a situation where you're learning again and you're being hit in places you never expected to be hit before, and you're dealing with life on another level. And that happens whether you're in a corporation, whether you're in a church, or whether you're a family and you just had another child. Every time you have a child, new conflict, new problems, new things to deal with, more to manage, more to handle. You just got used to having one. You come back from the doctor. Now you're getting ready to have two. Everything's got to shift. Everything's got to move. Everything you learned about the first child doesn't work on the second child. Come on, somebody knows what I'm talking about. But God is so gracious because he leads you along in steps and stages. And periodically, he will stop the process, allow you to evaluate where you are, to better understand where you are, and put you in a position that you can deal with your heart and mind and emotions that may still be back there where you started. And people are jealous of you and envious of you and fighting you, and they don't understand that you still perceive yourself as if you were where you started. But the steps of the Lord are leading you higher and higher and further and further and further than you've ever been before. Touch somebody and say, take another step. There's another step waiting for you. There's another dimension of life, another dimension of leadership, another dimension of problems, another dimension of conflict, another dimension of faith and finances and family and all of that. And if you don't break, and if you don't bow, and if you don't quit, and if you can maintain your faith in the middle of conflict and opposition, if you can neutralize controversy and learn how to take a licking, keep on ticking, keep your mind together, keep your wits about you, then God has ordered steps for you. And I want to tell you something. Your eyes have not seen, your ears have not heard the things that God has in store for you. He has a blessing for you. He has a promise for you. And all you have to do is stop complaining about where you are. Because when you complain about where you are, you do like Israel. You wander around the wilderness because you're not eligible to make the promotion because you're grumbling about the level you're on right now. You are canceling out the opportunity to go to the next level if you stop murmuring and complaining and say, I thank you for this conflict. I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for this controversy. I thank you for this training. I thank you for this opposition. I thank you for this enemy. Order my steps, Lord. Order my steps. Get me ready. I trust you. You wouldn't lead me into this position if you had not equipped me with everything I need for where I am right now. Are you ready for this? Touch three people and say, take another step. Take another step. Don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated. Don't bow. Don't break. Don't give in.
To challenge your ideas about yourself, because you came out of a history just like I did, where we were formerly oppressed by colonial imperialism, which taught us some ideas that were not true about you. You were trained to be maids and yardmen and farmers and workers on plantation and serving tea, cooking for people. You were not trained to own a business and build a company and lead a country and buy your own oil field or invest in your own gold mine. It's always somebody else doing it, because you've been trained that you cannot and should not try to own an oil company. And so we accept the idea. So our philosophy says we cannot own that. So we have been trained to be an employee, not an employer. As a matter of fact, we've been so brainwashed by the wrong philosophy that we are afraid to own things. We are afraid of success. Even the religion we were taught reinforced our lack of self-belief. You know what you were taught. for the last 100 years in religion. Your doctrine came from another country. Your belief system was imported by people who owned your forefathers, and they taught us songs to sing, didn't they? Songs like, I got a shoe, you got a shoe. All of God's people got a shoe. When I get to heaven, I'll put on my shoe. I'll walk all over God's heaven. Interesting song. So the enslaved, oppressed person sang that song, and they sang it to the master, the oppressor. They said to the master, I got a shoe, and you got a shoe. Both of us are God's people. We got shoes. You wear yours now, I'll wear mine in heaven. That's a dumb song.
One way to deal with learned helplessness is to go with the flow for a short period of time, knowing this too will not last forever. Well, you remember a moment ago I said that I might have to leave soon? Well, I already left. But through the magic of technology, here I am, not at home, but in Hawaii. This is the power talk called On the Road with Anthony Robbins. I'm here in Maui, actually, looking out over the ocean. And so now let's get back to our subject, which was beliefs. The power to create, the power to destroy. You and I need to take a look at what are some of the beliefs that can really disempower us. And I'll tell you one that clearly disempowers people that they think empowers them. And that is this belief that we must be realistic about everything. What does it really mean to be realistic? Now, what is realistic is different for everyone, isn't it? Was it realistic for a guy named Disney to look out over a big orange orchard and think, I'm going to build here a place that people from around the world are going to fly into and want to take their kids to, and it'll change the quality of how they feel about themselves. It'll make them have so much fun, and I'm going to build this amusement park in the middle of this orchard, and not only that, but I'm going to charge people just to get in. Now think about that. At that time, things like Coney Island, they charged for the rides, but you don't charge people to get in. That was, everybody told him that's totally unrealistic. Don't be ridiculous. It's never going to work. He was unrealistic, but you know what? He was accurate. See, when Mahatma Gandhi, a guy that was just a lawyer, who didn't really have any leadership capacity up until that moment, when he decided he was going to change the quality of life for his fellow Indians, guess what? It wasn't very realistic to think that with nonviolence, you could get the British Empire to give you your country back. He was totally unrealistic, but he was accurate. When a young man named Bill Gates saw in a magazine that there was this new idea called a personal computer, and that what it needed to be really launched was a system of operation, he called the gentleman who had manufactured it and said, I have developed a system that you can use immediately within your computer. Well, the man was a little bit skeptical, and he said, well, then come on down and show it to me. And in the next few days, this young man, Bill Gates, created a system without ever even seeing the computer. The first time he got to test it was when he was in front of the president of the company. And you know what? The president bought it, and Bill Gates' future was immediately altered. His optimism gave him the power to find out what he was capable of inside, to do the near impossible. And out of that one experience was launched a destiny for a company called Microsoft, which has changed the way people do business around the world. And it made Bill Gates a billionaire by the time he was 30. See, that's not realistic, but that's what makes America great. We go beyond realism. We create a new level of reality by starting with our thoughts, by starting with what's possible in our mind and taking that invisible and making it visible. But you can't do it when you're pessimistic, because when you're pessimistic, what you really are is fearful. See, most people are afraid to dream. They're afraid to be optimistic. Why? They say, well, I just want to be intelligent. I don't want to be Pollyanna like those people that are always pumping themselves up all the time. I'm a real person. I'm smart. Oh, yeah? You can be smart and broke. You can be smart and alone. You can be smart and fat. Smart is not the answer. Consistent action is the answer, and you will only take action if you believe somewhere inside of you that you're going to succeed in spite of the fact that you may have failed in the past, in spite of the fact that things don't seem to be working out for you. The bottom line is the past doesn't equal the future. You've got to have enough courage to be optimistic, because it takes courage. It's not being Pollyanna, it's being smart.
That's the key. You have to believe in something that you can't see. You have to believe when you don't see no way how. You have to buckle down and keep believing. God is always coming. Here's the deal. The moment you ask God for something, he boxes it up and he ships it to you. Here's the problem with the pack. He never gives you the date that is going to arrive. It's going to come. He just don't tell you when. If he told you when, it would destroy the relationship that's required to have an abundant life, which is faith. If God told you you were going to be rich in August of 2021, do you know how crazy you would talk to people from now until then? Because you know on August 21, I'm going to be rich. But he don't tell you when the package is going to arrive. So here's the deal. He wants you to stay in faith to receive the package, because he only delivers to faith. If you step off over here to I don't see how Boulevard, he don't ship. If you get over here to I don't see how Cirque does not ship, he only sends the box faith. So when he sends it and you'd have moved off faith, the package got to go back. It's just like UPS or the post office. If they send you a box and you ain't home, they take it back. That's how it works, man. Let me tell y'all something. Being successful is not a magic. You just have to learn the principle. I got nothing like that to tell you. I didn't finish school. I flunked out. I'm on my third marriage. Lost everything I've owned twice. Been homeless, lived in the car. I am telling you, your education ain't got nothing to do with it. Education ain't in the Bible. Emory is not in the Bible. It ain't Harvard, ain't. Look, fine. Show me education in the Bible. No, man, it's your dreams and vision. A man without a dream or vision shall perish. That's what the Bible is built. It's what God puts in your imagination for you to have. Everything God wants you to have, he puts it in your imagination. Albert Einstein said imagination is everything. It's the preview to life's coming attraction. Everything you imagine is God showing you a preview of a coming attraction he has for you. And he puts it in your imagination so you can see what he got for you. So if you've been imagining that you're going to be rich one day, it's because God wants you to be rich. Now, when you going to ask him for it, and are you going to wait for it to happen? Or are you going to lose faith? Here's what Christians mess up at. Well, I guess it wasn't the Lord's will. Who are you? How you know what God's will is? It all happens at an appointment, but you have to stay in faith for the appointed time to happen. I've been wanting to be on TV since I was 10 years old. You know how old I was before I got on? 38. 28 years after I wrote it on the paper. I won't be on TV. It took me 28 years to get on, but it happened at an appointed time. I just never gave up the faith. I kept going because I didn't know how to quit. Because I know if I quit, it cannot happen. I just listen to God a lot, tell you the truth. God, I have a dream, and God will tell me something. I wake up and go do it. When you have an idea, when something comes into your imagination, God places everything he has for you in your imagination. So when you have something in your imagination, it's actually a preview of a coming attraction that God has for you. So if you've been dreaming of your own business, it's because that's what he got for you. If you've been dreaming of a summer home, it's because that's what he got for you. He places everything he has for you in your imagination. You just can't tell it to everybody. You know why you can't tell it to everybody? Because if you want to kill a big dream, tell it to a small-minded person. Your imagination is real, man. So when I imagine stuff, I act on it. And then to quit worrying about how to get it done. The how-to is none of your business. God in the blessing business, man. The Bible say, ask, believe, receive. Now you got to be willing to work, but he don't require you to figure it out. The how-to is none of your business.
If you do what you can, the Lord will make a way somehow. People say, how did you get here? I did what I could and God did what I couldn't. Do the best that you can with what you have, and God will do the rest.
We all have things that come against us. It's easy to live uptight, wondering how it's going to work out. We tried to figure it out, but we don't see anything changing. But there's a simple phrase you have to keep down in your spirit. God's got this. He already has the solution. You don't have to figure it out. In the natural, you don't see a way. That's okay. He has ways to do it we've never thought of. And instead of trying to force it to happen, you have to let go and let God. Not only will you feel the heaviness, the weight lift off of you, but God will make things happen that you couldn't make happen. Sometimes we're trying to play God. We're trying to make our boss promote us, make the contract go through. But as long as we're trying to force it, then God steps back. But when you take your hands off and say, God, I'm not going to worry about my finances. I'm not going to be frustrated because I haven't met the right person. God, I trust your timing and I trust your ways. My life is in your hands. You may have a good reason to worry about something. You've done everything you can. Doesn't look like it's going to work out. Stay in faith. God is saying, I'm in the process of turning it around. It's just a matter of time before you see things change in your favor.
You should be tried, but you're going to survive. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. Everything is on schedule. Don't worry about your purpose. Worry about your season. Because when you get in your season, your purpose will be clear. God knows how. God knows what. God knows when. There are times you go through a season of mourning, a season of struggle. God has a time already set aside. Did you not hear that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning? Do you not know that God has a wind?
It may not happen the way you thought, but God's ways are better than our ways. In the scripture, a young man named Daniel worked for King Darius. Daniel was so good at what he did, the king was going to put Daniel in charge of his whole empire. But when the other leaders heard this, they came up with a plan to get rid of Daniel. When your gifts come out in great ways, don't be surprised if people get jealous. Some people will try to find fault, hold you back. The good news is people don't determine your destiny, God does. Don't get distracted trying to prove to them who you are. God will take care of your enemies. They said, King, you're so great. We've written a decree. No one can pray to anyone except you. They did this because they knew Daniel prayed to Jehovah. But that didn't change Daniel. Just like normal, he knelt down on his knees and prayed to the God of Abraham, the God of Jacob. They ran back and told the king. The king was upset with himself, but he couldn't go back on his word. So he had Daniel sent to the lion's den. When they arrested Daniel, he wasn't afraid, worried, panicked. Daniel's attitude was, God's got this. If it's not my time to go, I'm not going to go. He stayed in peace. What you're facing may be bigger, more powerful, but when you refuse to worry, instead you stay in peace, thanking God that He's fighting your battles, you are showing God by your actions that you're trusting Him. One evening, the authorities threw Daniel into the lion's den. These were hungry lions. God made Daniel unappetizing to those lions. God knows how to make you unappetizing to the enemy. What should normally defeat you, for some reason, it can't harm you. It can't take your health. God controls the universe. He controls the enemies. You're not at the mercy of random events, bad breaks. Nothing can happen without His permission. In life and in death, we have to know God's got this.
You don't know what God's gonna fight with, but I declare God's gonna get you out of this. You don't know who God's gonna use, but God's gonna get you out of this. In one moment, the weeping turned to laughter. That even the unbelievers are going to say the Lord have done great things for them.
We go hiking in the mountains sometime. They tell you, if you see a bear, don't take off running. Be calm. Carry yourself with a quiet confidence. In the same way, when you face enemies in life, those enemies can sense when you're afraid of them. They'll take more ground. But when they see you standing strong, thanking God when you could be complaining, at peace when you could be panicked, you are sending a message to those enemies you have no power over me. My God is in control, and if He be for me, who dare be against me? God doesn't deliver us from every difficulty. Most of the time, He takes us through the difficulty. I'm asking you to quit worrying about what you're facing. Quit being upset because somebody did you wrong. Can I tell you, God's got this. God is not just with you on the mountaintops. He's with you in the valleys when you're going through things. The scripture says God is concerned about what concerns you. He's concerned about me. He's bigger than my enemies. He's arranging things in my favor. That attitude of faith is what allows God to do amazing things.